Hi, I'm Chris Kesler from Kesler Science, and I'm super excited to announce that we have just released brand new Google Forms for all of the Kesler Science Station Labs. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use those and how they could be used in a distance learning situation for your students. These are the 9 steps that we'll be talking about during this process. We'll start with downloading the files and finish with distributing them to your class. Okay, let's get started. First, we're going to download the files that you purchased from Kesler Science. And if you purchase these files on TPT, I just want to quickly go through and review how you can re-download those files. You'll want to log into Teachers Pay Teachers, and in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to choose your account and then My Purchases. From there, you're going to scroll through all your purchases. You'll find the Station Lab or the full 5E lesson or the bundle that you want to download, and you'll click Download Now. There'll be a red button that says Download Now. You'll be prompted to choose to save the download, and you can save it to whatever folder or location you want. Throughout the rest of the video, I'm going to be using the Energy Pyramids Station Lab. I'm going to pretend that I purchased the Energy Pyramids 5E lesson from TPT, and these are the files that come with that particular lesson. So this is inside Finder within a Mac operating system. If you have Windows, it will look a little bit differently, but all the file structure will remain the same. You'll just be using Windows Explorer. So I want to call out the Station Labs. They are all going to begin with 2 Exploration. And there's 3 different versions of these files. The second step that we're going to be looking at is choosing the reading level of the PDF that you're going to send to your students. And so the modified or the lower level reading passage says M reading in the PDF file name. So you'll see modified reading and no answer key within the file name. The on level passage just has no answer key. It doesn't have that modified there. It doesn't have the M there. And then the main file contains the teacher directions and all of the in-class activities that you would find in the normal Station Lab. So there's 3 main Station Labs. These 2, you're going to pick one of these 2 files to send to your students for distant learning, depending on their reading levels. I want to also mention that on the files that you're going to be sending the students, the ones with no answer key, remember it's going to be either the modified version or the on-level version, that when they open the file, I'm just going to open the modified version here, the first page in here is going to give the students some directions. So that's just one thing to know, that they will already have some directions on the first page of the Station Lab. Another thing that it's important to remember is that because these are distance learning Station Labs, some of the stations do not necessarily work well in a home environment. For example, some of the exploration stations may be omitted due to the fact that you needed a Erlenmeyer flask and a heater or something along those lines. So they may not actually be doing that activity. So just know that the online versions may actually have a station or potentially 2 stations omitted when you're sitting at home. So when you scroll through here, if you're seeing like, well, why isn't the Explorer in here? Well, that's because the Explorer on the main Station Lab required materials that students are just not going to have at home. Now we're going to take a look at opening the Google Form answer sheet. So I'm going to take the main Station Lab file, which is called 2 Exploration Energy Pyramid Station Lab. This one contains the teacher directions. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And then right at the top of the teacher directions, it tells you there's a Google form that goes along with a digital student answer sheet, and it can be accessed from here. So I'm going to click on this link, and it's going to ask me, it's going to take you out to my Google Drive and ask you to make a copy of the document. The reason it's asking you to make a copy of the document is because I control the master file. Once you make a copy, then you can make any changes or edits necessary to that particular document without causing problems for other teachers. So you'll click on Make a Copy. And then if the student answer sheet involves students uploading photos of their answers, or the form needs to create the form actually needs to create a folder to store them, you're going to get this little missing file upload folders. All you'll do is just click on Restore here, and you'll be on your way. What I like to do is it's always going to put copy of in front here. I like to take this out, and if you're someone that likes to organize their Google Drive, then you may want to use this move to folder so that you can go back and find it easier. This is the Google form, and this is the form that you'll use to make any settings changes or edits to the questions that you need to do for your own classroom or for your own situation. The next few steps, I'm going to talk about some recommended settings, but there are so many different options that you can use to make these station labs work for your own situation. I can't possibly cover them all. I'm going to make my own recommendations, but you are going to have to play with these yourself to find out what works best for your class. Let's take a look at the Google form here, and I want to go through a couple of settings on here. The Google form is made up of a bunch of different sections, and each of these sections has their own settings. By default, we have turned off the field called required for all of the different sections, and there's a reason for that. However, I'm going to suggest that for the first 3 sections here, first name, last name, and class period, that you turn this on to required. So we're going to go and click on each of these sections, turn it on to required. That means that when your students submit their final responses, those 3 fields are going to have to be filled in. So you're not going to run into any issues with, you don't know whose document it is, you don't know what class period they're in or what name they are, whatever. The rest of them I would leave as not required. The reason I'm suggesting to leave these other ones off is because the students would have to sit down and do the entire station lab in one sitting, and that's just not going to be feasible for every student. So I would require these to all be turned off, and by default, they are turned off. So when it's not blue, that means it's off. If it's gray, that means it is off, and all of them are going to be off. Now, self-grading is completely optional. You can skip this section if you choose to grade manually, but I'm going to go through some of the self-grading options. So at the top right of the form, you're going to click the settings, and this is going to be true for all the settings we'll talk about the next few minutes here. So you'll click on the settings, and we'll first click on the quizzes tab up at the top. And then we're going to click on the slide button to make it a quiz. So there's a little slider button here, and it says assign point values to questions and allow auto grading. So once we turn that on, some other options become available underneath here. Let's take a look at the section called release grade. You have 2 options. You can immediately release the grade after each submission, or you can turn it to later after manual review. What happens, I'm going to make the suggestion that you turn this to later after manual review for this reason. It's going to stop the student from being upset or unclear about ungraded questions, and you're going to see what those look like in just a moment. But it also prevents cheating by constant trial and error, because they can just continue to resubmit over and over. So that's what we're going to suggest, later after manual review, and that manual review will be done by yourself. At the bottom, you're going to see a section called Respondent Can See, and that is what the student can see. It doesn't wait for the grade to be released before actually showing them the answer, and so we don't want them going back in there and changing that if you had another setting incorrectly. So we're going to go ahead and turn that one off. The correct answers we're going to also turn off. And the reason we're doing that is so that no student has a copy of the answer key to share with others. So let's say you're grading a little bit in the morning, you're grading a little bit in the evening, and you're kind of sending grades back to students as they go. You know how this is going to work. Students talk with each other, especially in an online environment, and they're going to be sharing answers. So I'm just going to suggest that you turn correct answers off. Your mileage may vary once again. And then lastly, the point values. I'm going to leave this on because the student, it doesn't hurt him or her to see how much each question is worth. After that, we'll click Save, and that'll save those settings. And I'm going to go ahead and click Restore again. I'm going to show you how to add point values and answers to your questions. So the first set of questions on this particular document is the write it task cards. And if you click on answer key, you can assign the point value here. So let's just pretend these are going to be 5 points apiece. So task card 2 is worth 5 points. Task card 3 is also worth 5 points. And task card 4 is worth 5 points as well. Now, I'm not going to do this for every single question on here, but I will scroll down to the read it section, and we're going to do the same thing. But for this one, when we click answer key, you actually have to choose the correct answer. So in this case, I'm just going to pretend that it's A. I don't know that it's A, and that it's worth 3 points. Okay, I'll click done. And then on task card 2, I'm also going to say it's A. You have to click on answer key. It's worth 3 points, and the answer is A. You can also add answer feedback here as well. That will, if you have that setting enabled, it will give the student some feedback once you send the grades back to him or her. You'll click done. On question 3, I'm just going to say these are all A, because the answer is always A, right? 3 points. And this is going to help show something at the end. So I'll click this, I'll click the answer key. It's going to be A, 3 points. All right. So that is set. And once the students start responding, we're going to show you what that looks like in just a moment. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. Let's take a look at one more group of settings. We're going to go back up to the top, the little gear icon up in the top right here. I'll click it. And we're going to stay in the General tab. Collect email addresses is on by default. We want to do that so that we can send them their grades manually. Require sign-on and limit to one response. Respondents will be required to sign into Google. We're going to leave this selected as yes, or they can't use the link in the email from the teacher to go back and edit without making a brand new response. And then lastly, you have respondents can either edit after the submit. And so I'm going to leave this on to allow them to edit after they submit, or else they have to finish the whole thing in one shot and they can't just save as they go. So I'm going to allow them to edit after they submit. And then by default, see summary charts and text responses. I'm just leaving that off so that students can't see that. And I'll click save here. And again, we didn't really change anything here. So, I just wanted to show you that you do have some options in the general settings as well. Let's move into a couple of different grading options. There are two really main ways you can grade. You can grade each student individually through the form, or you can grade them through a spreadsheet. I'm going to show you both ways here. So we're back at the form. I'm going to click on responses. You can see that I have one response here. And then I'm going to click on individual. Now, if you have a bunch of students that have submitted work, you'll be able to choose this from a drop-down list. But I'm going to, since there's only one student, that was me, these are where the answers are going to be. And this is where I can start grading. I'm going to scroll past the class period and name. And I'm actually going to start grading these responses. Now, this is the response. So I just wrote in, this is just a test answer, nothing to see here. Obviously the students will, well, not obviously, hopefully the students will have much more to write in these spots, but I just put a placeholder text there. So let's say that's worth 5 of 5 points. Let's say this one is worth 4 or 3 of 5 points. Okay, let's go guys. 3 of 5 points. And then this one's worth 4 of 5 points. And I can click save. At any point, I have not graded the entire thing, but I just want to let you know that you can do that. And the ones that we had checked to auto grade earlier on were the read it questions. So it's already calculated those points. You can see that I got 3 of 3 on this one, 3 of 3 on this one. How did I know it was A? Unbelievable. Anyway, I purposely missed the last one just to show you what it would look like. And then when you're done, you can go through all of this. Again, this is the Illustrated. They've uploaded a screenshot of something they drew or did a digital graphic of. And then once you're completely done grading this, you can click on Release Score, and that will release the score back to the student. Remember, I told you there were two ways to grade. So the other way you could do this is to look at a spreadsheet. And so back on this responses tab up here, I'm already on the tab, there is a little green create spreadsheet button. If we click it, it's going to ask me to select the response destination. I'm going to go ahead and do what the default is, which is create a new spreadsheet. But you can also select an existing spreadsheet as well. I'm not sure what the use case is for that, but yeah, I definitely would do a new spreadsheet here. And I will create that, and Google will do its magic and pull up a new tab. This spreadsheet is going to show you a list of all the student responses. So if you had your form to auto grade, it will automatically have a score for you here. But there's a couple of different ways that this is kind of beneficial. You could kind of scroll down. If you wanted to only grade certain sections, you could quickly do that. If you wanted to just give a quick completion grade, you could kind of eyeball it from here a little bit faster than you can do in the form mode. There's just multiple ways you can look at this. So you can look at the spreadsheet view, or you can grade it in the form view. If you were entering grades from your grade book, this would be a great place to come because you can sort these as well. So on Google Forms, there's just a little drop-down arrow here. I could choose that drop-down and then sort the sheet, A to Z, and then sort it by class period. I'd have all my grades listed right here, and I could just plop them in my grade book pretty quickly. The last thing I want to talk about is distributing this information to your class. You're going to need to send two things to your students. The first is the PDF. Which PDF are they going to get? Are they going to get the one with the modified reading passage, or are they going to get the one with the on-level reading passage? You're going to have to make that decision. So these files, these PDF files, can be uploaded to your LMS, whether that be Schoology or Google Classroom or however you distribute information to your students. As long as the learning management system you use for your school requires the students to log in, or requires the parents and students to log in, you won't run into any copyright issues with Kesler Science. The thing I want to caution you about is please do not upload these files directly to a website, like a school website that does not have any kind of password protection. What happens is Google searches all those pages on the internet, and if you're uploading like the teacher file directly to your own web page, the first thing students do is do a Google search to try to find the answers, and you don't want that to do that. And also, I just don't want you to violate the copyright on that. So I would appreciate that if you would upload those to the correct areas, which would be, you can email them directly to your students, no problems there. You can upload it to your learning management system like Google Classroom, Schoology, no problems there at all. All right. The second thing you need, so they need to get one of those files. The second thing they're going to need is the link to the digital answers, where they're going to put their digital answers. Now, this is not the link to the Google form that we've been working with here, right? So it's not the link to this file. It's actually the student answer sheet. The easiest way is to click on send right here. You're going to click on this little icon for creating a link. I would always shorten the link, and this will automatically get copied to your clipboard, and you can paste that in your LMS platform or in your email out to students. When you paste that link, it's going to look like this. And this is the form that the students will get. So you can see that there's no editing capabilities. It tells you the answer, the point value for each of the questions, whatever you've set up. And this is where their answers are going to be submitted. So you don't want to send them a link to here, because they're going to mess up your form. So you want to make sure to send them to the live response sheet. After that, your students are on their own and they're able to do the station lab in a remote environment, which is going to be awesome for students everywhere. If you have any additional questions at all about the Station Lab forums or how to get set up, there is a massive group of science teachers that exist out on Facebook in a Facebook group called the Kesler Science Professional Learning Network. I've provided the link here, but you could just do a Facebook search for Kesler Science Professional Learning Network, and you are going to find a wealth of information about this particular topic, as well as any other topic you can possibly think of in middle school science. This is a fantastic opportunity to network with other teachers. There are over 15,000 teachers in the group, and it's just my favorite resource for middle school science teachers actually on the internet. It's an amazing wealth of information. You can also email us at chris@kesslerscience.com, and one of us will get back to you shortly with a response. Thank you for listening, and take care.